Hi, I'm Julie. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. This is my guest, Erin Klein. And Erin, feel free, introduce yourself and please tell us your story.
Okay, I have a really long story, so I'll break it into pieces and you just kind of tell me what you want to know about the piece. But I started in MLM 15 years ago. So I was in for 15 years. So I started 2006. I was in college at a small private university in Columbus, Ohio. I changed my major every semester that I was in school. No idea what I wanted to do. And that was the first time I actually found, my roommate actually found an ad in the newspaper for me that said part-time cash. And I was like, sounds good. Went in, saw a presentation, had a lot of skepticism, a lot of questions, but I met a person the next day. They edified a person enough for me to want to come meet him, and like that was it for me. So I got started. The next 90 days, my first 90 days in that company, I made $9,000. So 20-year-old college kid, you make $9,000 in your first 90 days. I was literally up every night with a calculator, right? The bar, I was buying everybody shots. I turned 21 during that time, so it was fun. But I was up every night with a calculator because in my mind, I was like, how am I not going to be a millionaire at 25? Like there's no way I'm not, because this is just going to keep growing and be exponential. So since I didn't know what I wanted to do anyways, I made the next logical decision to then remove myself from college and go all in full time on that business. And that company, the team that I was in that business, they did things very differently. We had a lot of office space, so people were renting offices throughout the Midwest. So I had moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, then lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people. And for some reason, none of this was weird to me at the time, because I was just so like, this is what entrepreneurs do. You sleep on the floor, like you do whatever it takes. You sacrifice now. So was in that and then from there, it just continued to move from different cities in the Midwest. Within that particular business, we had a lot of overhead. And again, it wasn't the company, it was like the team I was in. So they would do trainings every month that were like $200. They were always in Chicago. So you had to get like your hotel and transportation there. And then that was on top of everything. Like I said, we had an office. You had the overhead for your office space. Like there was just a lot packaged in that. And in that time, I didn't notice at the time, but I had distanced myself a lot from my family and friends, right? Even when it was Christmas time. I remember I dated the same guy for a long time, my high school boyfriend. And I remember him being like, I'm going to buy you a flight to come home for Christmas. And I remember I was living in Minneapolis at that time. And I remember thinking, okay, but I can only be for like the 23rd to the 26th, because I got to get back, because entrepreneurs don't take they don't take vacations. They don't set, like, it's Christmas is one day. And so it's just, and I did that. And then so we can unpackage more in that if you want later. But from there, I went to in 2012 is when we started in a travel club. And so that was like way more exciting to me, because the first company was like nutrition, so supplements and all that fun stuff. And then travel, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Like it was the easiest thing to sell, because like who didn't want to travel? And I remember thinking like, oh, I don't have to compare products with a lot of other companies, because at that time, there's a ton of travel companies now. But at that time, World Ventures was it, that was the one. And so it was like, you got that first company, right? That first big company, right? The first to marketplace kind of in that space. And so, and it was fun. Like I said, I didn't have to compare and be like, my multivitamin is better than your multivitamin, and my multivitamin has this patent blend and this. It was just freaking Hawaii. Do you want to go or not? There's this price or this price, and it was fun. It was easy. So I did really well, really fast in that company as well. It took me about right around 16, 17 months to hit 100,000 in income from that company. And so, and guess what? I got to live by myself. I had my own apartment all by myself. I bought a brand new car. Like I was like living, and I really thought that like that was the payoff for like all my hard work previously. I was like, this is what they're talking about, right? Like I worked my ass off and I sacrificed and I did all of it. And like, I'm now getting rewarded for the work I did previously is what I thought. So, in that company, it was fun. I traveled all the time. I met my husband through that travel club and it was fun until it wasn't. I think, there was like financial issues within that company. And of course, nobody tells you. It's always like everything's wonderful, everything's great. Or if they do tell you, it's always with that like, the positive side, like, hey, this is happening just so you're aware. But it's going to be fine. We got this figured out, blah, 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 blah. Just work through it. So at the end of 2017, so November and December, neither of those months did I receive my commission check for those, my November month or my December. And I will add, still to this day, I'm not. So coming into 2018, and again, this is what I did full time. So it's not like I have a full-time job and I'm just missing a $300 check or a $500 check. Like it was money that I was a single, I spent most of the money I made. So it sucked. We'll just say that. But going into 2018, it was hard. I pulled back a little bit in 2018. And I will say I'm fortunate in this aspect that the enroller I had him all 15 years of my experience, the same person. And I will say I'm fortunate that when I said, hey, I'm going to pull back, I don't really feel confident showing people right now when I'm still waiting to get paid. I feel weird saying, hey, you can make money here. And then the back of my mind, knowing I'm still owed money. And so I was like, so I'm going to stick around. Like I'll pop my face in on Zooms, like show up to like the small, like regional events, like stuff like that. But like, I'm not really going to show anybody. And he was totally fine. Also, I will add, I got offered an opportunity. The whole reason I started in network marketing was I love basketball. I wanted to be a basketball coach. But you don't make a lot of money being a basketball coach. And I got offered a lot of opportunities along the way. And I always declined because people were always saying, wait till you hit this rank or get to the top and then go do it. And it just got to a point where I'm like, this is what I've always wanted to do. And I was at a point, like I said, where I didn't have a job. I hadn't worked a job since 2014. Like I was making money. I was doing the things that I was supposed to be, what people were supposed to be striving for, but I still couldn't do what I wanted to do because people were telling me it wasn't good enough yet. So in 2018, I decided to start coaching. I think maybe it was 2017 I did. Anyways, bottom line, again, I was fortunate that enroller, he was like, I think it's time. You're right. You put your time in and you've been working, go coach basketball. So I was like, wow, that was easier than I thought of a conversation it was going to be. Like I was prepared with my bullet outline, like why I should be able to go coach. And he was totally cool on board. So anyways, through 2018 and then 19 and then 2020 comes, of course. And by that time I had my first son in April of 2020. And in 2020, of course, all the obvious stuff with pandemic and travel, because the company was doing what we were told was doing better as far as like catching up on like what had happened, and whatever, like it was still just not, it just was never the same after 2017, I will say. And then November and December 2020 came along, and again, no checks still. So November 2017, December 2017, November 2020, and December 2020. I'll never have them. It's fine. I've moved on past that. But yeah, so that, and then that was when they'd picked the whole company up, their whole comp plan, and just kind of dropped it into a different company. And a lot of things were like lost kind of in translation there. I remember because of the way my team was, I was getting a check. I did get a check from this company, and I was like, what the heck is this? Like, again, like skincare, nutrition. And it just was like, that just wasn't me, like I like supplements. I take supplements but like people had known me for so long by that point as like travel. That was like my identity at that time. And I always said like, I didn't want to sell nutrition. So it was just, I just don't get excited. Like I said, I take supplements, but I'm not like, gee, golly whiz, let me show you how great this multivitamin is. Like, I'm never gonna be that pumped, about a multivitamin. So some things had happened and some people in different teams got moved around where people that were my personal lineage were taken from my team and placed elsewhere.
They just took it. They just took people from your team.
Yeah, yeah. Like that had happened to other people where it was more like it was spillover from the previous company. But this was like, personal lineage, like my personal lines of lineage that were just.
And is that, can you just like maybe explain what that means for people who are like not know what multi-level marketing is? Like, is that like your downline? Is that your downline people you personally recruited?
Yeah. So their lineage would be like personal people that you actually like contacted and showed a presentation to and signed them up and worked with them to develop their team as well. So
that's a lot of time investment.
Lots of time, effort, relationships through that team as well, and then they still want to, people that were in that person's team, for example, they didn't maybe understand what had happened. And they're like reaching out to me like, can you help with this, and this? And of course, like you want to help, but then at the same time, it's like, well, why don't you ask someone else? They didn't even know that I was not their upline anymore, so like, it was just really awkward. But at that time, I took it as a sign that was just like, next route, next opportunity, this is just going to open something else up. Maybe I've been limiting myself by being in this industry for so long because I know I shut myself off to a lot of other opportunities because I was so into what I was doing. That I never just took the time to learn anything else. And I was like, you know what, maybe obviously this is a sign and as good a time as any to start learning and start pursuing other things that I'd put on the back burner because of this. And so it's worked out well. So that's the 15-year juncture.
Wow.
Unpack any of that?
Okay. So thank you so much for like explaining all that. So you're one of the people that like got in and you had success right away. So a thing that a lot of people like want to know is that were you aware of like the churn rate within each multi-level marketing company of how many people, like, did you see the people in your team that were recruiting, like leaving, like, were you aware of that?
No, not immediately because what had happened was, like I said, I went to a really small school. So a lot of people knew everybody. And so so people trust you. So like, I basically signed like my whole college up for the most part, like a lot of people in there. And so there were some people obviously that would eventually quit or whatever it is. But I think, I think a lot of people didn't quit right away and they stuck around longer maybe than normal because of me. I think they saw she made $9,000 and that made them stick it out maybe longer than your typical person would have, right? Like if I got in and I made $100 and 5 months later, people probably would have been. Does that make sense? Sorry.
No, it does. It's okay. I know. Well, and you have that superstar power within the each multi-level marketing company because were you like featured? Like, did you walk on the stage?
Oh my gosh, I should have brought my little in that company. So this was 2006 when I started. So like so we were still getting paper checks, right? And so like they would always send like a write-up of somebody in their check. So there was like a little write-up with my picture and like a whole like story thing. And people use that in the presentation all the time, right? Because I was local in Columbus. So even other people in that office that were like not on like sideline to me, it was still good for them because there was still a physical person they could point to and say, oh, well, you're skeptical. This person's made $9,000 and here's her checks and here's her face in the company thing. And then, yes, we did have events and I was so oblivious. Like I had no idea I hit ranks. I had no idea. I remember going to like my first event and they're like, we're going to recognize this level. And they said my name and I was like, I didn't know I was that. Like I was literally the definition when they say ignorance on fire. I was just like having fun with my friends, bringing them to an office, hanging out for a little bit. That's how it went.
That's a term that I was surprised that not like people outside of multi-level marketing aren't familiar with, and ignorance on fire, because I learned that too. It's like you don't need to know about the business, you don't need to know about your comp plan, you don't even need to know about the ingredients of the products. Just be ignorant. Just go out there and work that business. Do what you can. Like share that opportunity. So, like tell them about your products or whatever. And that's what we call like ignorance on fire. And I just blew my mind that people didn't know that. I thought, oh, that's self-evident, but it's not.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We should have clarified. Good thing you clarified that.
The only reason is because I've had people ask me that myself.
Yeah.
So.
That makes sense.
Did you ever have any like you said like I was oblivious to any kind of churn rate. People were staying with you longer because you had that star power. You were like one of these people that you were like the less than 1%. Yeah. And then you have these relationships with people. So it's like, there's that, I don't know, it's just like that stronger bond. Did you ever notice anything like, people are being, if they're skeptical, you're held up as an example, as proof of evidence. Did you ever have any questions earlier on? Like as you were growing, did you ever start to have any like, wait a second,
Yeah. So the very first, time. Okay. So remember I said when I first came in, I was skeptical, but they edified the person I was going to be working with because he was out of the office doing a training somewhere else. And they're like, just come back and meet him. And I was like, all right. And I did. And I mean, he kind of just had me from hello. He's just one of those contagious, great energy, good vibe people. Like, and I will still say this to this day, despite this whole genuinely, like, just that's how he is to his core, And so I remember him drawing out like, okay, you get paid, 10% on the first, like, and he was drawing it out and I'm sitting there and I was like, oh, so it's like a pyramid thing. And he was like, exactly, just like that. I'm so happy you already know that. I don't have to explain that to you. And he made me feel smart that I said that. I was like, all right, yeah, I know this stuff. And so I didn't, so that was just an attestant to that. But I will say, going deeper into like that experience, that 6 years in that company, his, upline that had the team where we like did the trainings every month and you had to live with 8 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. Like he was the mind fuck, not my enroller, the other guy. And so that's where it got really like to the point where if you asked questions, you're an idiot. How do you not see how obvious and amazing this is? Like it made you feel kind of dumb because they would always have great examples to combat anything you have a question about or compare it to something. And there's truth in everything that they had said. Like every example that they gave was true. But it just wasn't necessarily congruent with what we were doing. Right. Like, and all those, right. It takes money to make money. That's genuinely true in most cases. It is, there's a lot. My husband has a business, he spent money to start it, but it's different, like, so that's what I'm saying. Like all the things that you learn and how they compare things, they are true. How do I word that? Maybe you can help me. It's true, but it's just twisted in a way to make it fit what they want you to do.
That's excellent. And they use these things, thought-stopping cliches. And also like somebody had commented like a bumper sticker reduction. It's like something that you show on Pinterest. It's like, it is true.
Yeah.
But it's taken out of like, just like how we were talking about, does this make sense? It's like, that's a normal thing to say, but yet it's taken like to the extreme in multi-level marketing. So I don't know if you, and please let me know if you're comfortable expanding more on that person who is like the mind fucker, because there's so many people, there's so many good people involved in these things. Yeah. And there's like, your upline where you're like, I still say to this day, like genuine, awesome. This is just who they are, like to their core. And we all know people like that. And they believe this is great. And they're also like, I can do it differently. But there's people that aren't, and those are the ones.
Well, yeah, and
the top.
But those people are the ones that are, how they always say, like the more confident person wins, and they're just usually the mindfuck people are very bold, confident, and they exude sometimes what people wish they had, so they just like cower and believe them because it's like Like they feel like if they agree, then they're teaming up with a strong person. Like, yeah, we think like this, you know, or whatever. But this person, he's smart, right? Because he learned how to manipulate a lot of people. But like I figured out later on, he made way more money from outside of that business from us still because of that, right? He had his own training company. So we paid $195 a month for a training. Every month.
$195 a month?
Yeah. There was a training every month. It was $195. And then each office would get like a charter bus or something so we could travel to Chicago. So that would be about $60 a person to chip in for. And then probably think about like, or 80 probably, and then like 60 for your hotel. So at least like around $400 each month just on your training. Because you want to be successful, don't you? You know, right? Why wouldn't you go? And then, okay. So here's the thing. Okay. There's a lot here. So $200, I would say on average, there'd be anywhere between 200 and 250 people. And that was congruent over the whole 6 years I was there. So that should have told me something that like, it's not growing. It's always the same. So that turnover factor that you're talking about, it's just new people. But so I'm like, okay, $200 times 200 people. Right. And then I didn't realize till later on to rent one of those hotel rooms in a hall or one of those rooms in a hotel to do an event is only like a couple $100. So like he's making like $4,000 just on us registering. Right. And then, there was like little boxes of flyers we would buy, right? They're like little like Post-it note flyers that would say part-time cash. If you have 6 to 10 hours a week, call this number. And you could stick them on car windows. And I got a lot of dirty calls from there. People were pissed. But those boxes, there's like 5,000 Post-it notes. It was $98.
No way. Oh, he just kept taking the money.
Yeah, but I found out it cost $40 for him. So he's making $58 off each box of flyers he sold us on top of the training. So he's smart, but an asshole smart, right? And then there was something called Rhino. It was like a telecommunication system. Again, this was 2006, so it was phones weren't doing what they were doing then. So if you wanted to stay in the loop and stay in all the information of everything that's happening, you have to have this communication system so you don't miss anything that's going to happen. And that was like $30 a month. And he would pass them out at training, and it had his like logo, like whatever for the training company. And you'd fill out your stuff to get your RhinoCom. But I found out later that was like a whole nother MLM. That was a telecommunication company that he was just signing us up into.
No way. Okay. So he was branding himself outside of the multi-level marketing,
right? Like his training company.
And also with actually signing you all up deceptively into another multi-level marketing company.
Yeah, I didn't know until like years later that it was actually another MLM. So he was probably
what a fucking cock. Oh my God.
Hold on, there's more. Okay. Then t-shirts. You had to get your team t-shirts because they want to be part of the team. Got to be part of the team. So you want to get yourself a shirt and your team. You know, and then let's see. Oh, and then we had the offices, right? And it was a privilege in order to have a desk in an office. That was $300 a month so you could rent your desk out in the office. That was $300. And we had to have our phone line. You had to run ads to your phone. So it really added up pretty quickly.
Holy shit. This training that was $195 a month. Was this a one-day event? And did you have
like a weekend, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday?
And so it was just like live. There wasn't like recording. Was there recordings or anything like that you could edition? That was
there were some, but again, this was 2006. So and like it was really, so like there was stuff, but it wasn't like it is today. If there was something,
but so it was pretty much you're going there just for the live event.
Yeah.
Every month.
Yeah. And it got to the point too where it's like there were 4 trainers and they were the same 4 trainers. Sometimes there'd be a random other person they would let train a little bit. But it's like I went every month for like how long? And I probably heard mainly the same information. But it wasn't about me at that point. It's about getting my new people to see that information. Yes. So and they're not going to go if you don't go. So
yeah. Yeah, it's true. That's
You
what
know?
we're told. And I don't know if you were told this. It seems to be like throughout the MLM, like all of MLMs, it's like if you get them, it's important. It's got to light their spirit. They're going to be for every person you get, that's going to like equate to how much income.
Yeah.
Like we just believe this stuff. Can you describe what it was like, if you feel comfortable, like to be in one of these trainings when you were like believing it and just like how exciting it is? Because there's a lot of people I know when I've been speaking about going to these like large group awareness trainings, LGATs, people are like, what, how do you not see this? This is the same thing that's said all the time. And it's like, I would just like stand up and leave and walk out, but it's not like that when you're in it. You don't see that. And would you be comfortable just sharing like what it was like for you when you were like in it and just like, this is great?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like, if I'm hearing right, you're saying like, how did people say, you hear this over and over and over and over again? How did you not? And again, I think it's about, okay, so going to the events was like, first of all, it's exciting because I moved around a lot. So it was like I got to see some people in my team that lived in different cities. So it's fun and exciting. But I think, if I'm being honest, for some people, if you were making income, it's more like an ego trip. Like I felt good because people would be like, this is Erin. She's this level and runs this office. It's just a fucking ego. It just makes you feel great about yourself. And then when it comes to like, and I think it was a nice break in the monotony because we worked our asses off. Like we worked every day in an office 24/7. So it was a nice break of like, okay, like someone else is talking and doing that stuff. And I loved the trainers, the speakers, the same four. One was my enroller. Like they were fantastic and like just very entertaining. But like to me, it's almost like, okay, like I'm a Christian, I read my Bible a lot, and it's that whole thing where it's like, even if you read the Bible over and over and over again, like I still kind of get something new from it because I'm at a different stage in my life. So I could be like, oh, I just read this like same thing 8 months ago, but it hits different kind of. So I would say like a comparison to that would be, yeah, like you might hear things differently. And again, it's just so ingrained in you that it's like, that's what you do. Like, you know, I'm trying to think right now of a good football player, but it's like they still go to their football camps every year. Like they still show up to football practice every day. Like, yeah, that makes sense, you know? So why would you think that you know it all? When you start knowing it all, that's when you fail, you know? And it's like, okay. So you have to keep going.
Yeah, there's always truth, and we make it make sense. It's
Mhm.
looking for the examples in the real world where this same logic applies. Going to a football camp, reading your Bible. These are all legitimate. It makes sense to be like, this is the same thing. Yeah.
So that's what it was. And then it gets to a point too, like, so they used to do what they would call mastermind dinners. So if you did like 1,000 points in volume, so points are usually dollars. So basically if you did $1,000 worth of sales the previous month and you bring 3 brand new people to training, then on like Saturday night, you get to go out to dinner with like the trainers and like hang out with them. Right. And I strive to win those a lot. And hindsight looking back, I had to tell my husband, I was like, I feel guilty because there are people that I know, and it might sound bad, but like when I met them, I was working them, I knew that they weren't somebody of influence. They weren't somebody that was really going to like go show a lot of people or like have the credibility among their peers to probably sign people up, you know? But I pushed them to come to training so I could win that damn dinner. Even though I knew I justify it, I guess, by thinking they'll probably get something out of the training. And maybe they did. Maybe some people have. I don't know. But I do remember like feeling guilty, like that hindsight looking back. Like I had these people maybe spend some money that I don't know if they had or not, just so I could like look important, like I'm working hard, you know, like it's your badge of honor that like you did that.
Thank you so much for being so candid about this, because this is uncomfortable. This is the kind of shit that people like. It's very, very hard for people to talk to, and you're doing it like just conversationally. Like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal, but the way you're talking about it, it is so powerful for people that they might not even have reached like this higher rank, but they feel that shame of that guilt. And I just want to like give you a lot of credit right now for just being so candid, because this is fucking powerful. And I'm sorry I interrupted you, but like I had to.
Good. Yeah, and that's just how it was. You just get rewarded for those things, and that's what you do, because you crave that recognition and it feels good, and yeah, you hope that people get something out of it, but you don't know. And that was rinse, wash, repeat for 6 years until not. And it's crazy because even in that, okay, so I told you like how much all the overhead was, right? Like the $300 for your desk, all this stuff. So my best residual check in that company was $1,800. That was the best like residual. Like I still had like the different weekly stuff, right? But based on that. So I was someone that, like I said, that wasn't, I think the most I made in a company was like 35 grand, between 30 and 35 in that company. And, but again, not a lot of it was take home. Like I said, like we were living like broke people, 8 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. And like there's a lot. I feel like whenever I want to talk to somebody about MLM, I was like, I feel like I need days, because this is 15 years of life I'm trying to to get out. But especially with company number 1 was like the worst. When it comes to World Ventures, I don't have as many regrets as I do the first one.
Okay.
And that could just be because well, okay, I do. But like it's different. So when I did World Ventures, like I said, it was different because I was actually making money, and it was more, I felt like compared to what I'd done for that previous 6 years, I felt like this was super free. Because like I said, like no one was like, you have to live with people. And, so I got to like get my own apartment. That's fun. Buy a new car. That's fun. And then I traveled a lot. And that's fun. And so I was having fun. But when it came to the business, it was, I felt like genuinely in the beginning, people are recruiting, and I genuinely felt like this is it. Like people can make money here because I'm doing it. And I truly genuinely believed that if I'm doing this, like others can, because I wasn't anything special. You know what I mean? Like I had that previous 6 years experience, and we moved over. So I did have teammates that came with me that knew. So I had that in place. But it was different, like I said, because there weren't products. So you really didn't have, right? I told you all the overhead we had before. And now all of a sudden, if you have 4 people, you don't pay anything. So like people literally had no overhead. We didn't have an office. We didn't have a phone line. We weren't running advertisements, right? It was like all that money I was spending is like, I don't have to spend that anymore. And I was paying $0 because it was free, because I had 4 members, So I genuinely, truly believed like, this is it. Like, this is common sense. Why doesn't anybody do this? And then I don't even know when it really hit me that like, I guess, sorry, my throat got dry. But I know that, I don't know how long you were in your company. I think you said 5 years, but I think after going so long, and people in my team that had come along with me, I noticed them still coming to training, still coming to everything, still doing everything. But it was like the same thing over and over again. Like they never hit ranks ever, but they worked hard. They did. And I remember them like reaching up to me, right? Or reaching out to me because I'm their upline and I do have this success. And they're like, can you help me do these calls? And I always would. And like, but I remember like having conversations with people where they're just like, one of 2 things, either really optimistic, like, I can't wait for this, this, and this. And of course, you as the upline's like, yeah, it's going to happen. Like, this is it. And like I said, genuinely believe it for the most part. But at some point, it got to a point where I was like, do I really think this person is ever going to hit a rank? Maybe they're not. Like, they don't have nothing going on for years. But then you always hear those stories of someone that like popped after years. So then that keeps people around. But I remember just having conversations with people like, man, like, I can't wait to be able to not work a job like you, or I can't wait to do this, or, why do you think my business isn't growing? Or what do you think I'm doing wrong? And that was kind of what sucked, is because when people said, what do you think I'm doing wrong? They weren't doing anything wrong. And that was the answer I would give them. And like, I remember saying that to people and thinking in the back of my head, well, if they are working hard and they're not doing anything wrong, then why aren't they making money, you know? And it just like a slow, I would just say like kind of like a slow drip in my head as far as like starting to come to that and figure out, well, I don't know. You know, that was the only answer I could give sometimes, was like, I don't know why you're not making money, you know? But yeah, so that just kind of, it sucks when you're in that position because you don't know the answer. You're not trained on that. And when you ask other people or whatever, it's just, you know, and I was like, my enroller was a freak of nature. He could go into any company and hit the top of it because he's just attracts people like crazy. Like he could walk into a restaurant and he'd walk out, everybody signed up, best friends with them, you know, but be genuine. He really was. Like, I mean, we've had lots of laughs and cries over 15 years, you know, like been there for everything. So I don't know. I might have lost my thought or my point in that tangent, but
it's good. This is all coming out. I think it's really cool to hear how the first things that you started to question about is because you care about your team. And it's important for people to know, because a lot of people think if you're near the top, you know what's going on. You're fully aware that you're making money off the backs of people and you're doing this. You don't care. You're just like, you've sold your soul kind of thing, right? And there's people, it doesn't matter like how, like you get up there and you really don't know. Like you take people with you, like your team comes to their company. That is not duplicatable. A lot of people don't do that. Right. A lot of people don't have the network, and you're aware that a lot of people don't have this network. They're not going to rank up. And there's like those little feelings of guilt of like, oh, but this is such an honor to be like, to qualify to go to one of these masterminds. Like this is going to help you serve your team. And then also when you're describing these people that you care about, that they've been showing up to all the trainings, they're doing all this stuff, and you're like honest with them. You're like, you're not doing anything wrong. And that you start to ask questions, and they're not being trained on the answers. So was there, what helped to broaden those cracks, like those questions in your mind? Like, did you talk to anybody within your company? Was there like, or somebody else outside the company? Was there any kind of like, did you start to get more information of starting to be like, okay, most people are going to fail no matter what?
I don't think I came to that realization necessarily right away, because I feel like deep, I still had this thought that maybe what if kind of, you know, I think why I felt what those people were feeling was because I was one of those people that always hit like the top middle ranks, right? I never hit like the top 2 or 3, right? It was like middle, like top middle, right? Like enough that people know who you are, right? But like not at the top to know what's going on in meetings with corporate, right? Stuff like that. And so I think part of why I identified with that and started to question things was because I was like them, just higher. I was still working hard and doing the right things and not ranking up to those higher ranks that I was striving for. So I think that was like me, like, right? Like we're in the same boat. I was just at a higher level than they were, but I still wasn't able to like really, I never felt like I had to like crack that ceiling that I was at ever, you know? And so I think that was it. And I remember being frustrated and like even talking to my enroller about like different income opportunities, things I wanted to try. And, you know, he always, in the beginning, obviously keep in mind, 15 years, he's growing and evolving during this time too, as a person and like learning stuff. He started when he was 22. So he was very young, right, as well. And we talked about the mind fuck of his upline and all that stuff. So I feel like, you know, he was a different person when I signed up than we were, because he's growing and maturing too. So I feel like he started to be like, you know, because I remember the biggest thing for me was, okay, I'm starting to get my thought back where I was. The biggest thing was I would see a lot of people that were edified, that were like at some of these higher levels, and they owned, like one guy owned like I think he owned 18 funeral homes. And
no fucking way. Are you serious? This is how multi-level marketing companies started, was like about like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
Seriously.
He already had a bunch of money. Like he was wealthy well beyond his means. And they owned some restaurants, and there were a couple other people that were like into real estate, or they owned other businesses, right? They had other things like, and I remember being frustrated and telling my enroller, I'm like, I think it's so frustrating that like everybody's like, you need multiple streams of income, multiple streams of income, multiple streams of income, and they all have it, but they tell us focus on one thing. And that was like really frustrating to me. And of course it was always like, well, you need to make money to be able to have that money to put into these other businesses and whatever. And I just thought it was like, I just started getting frustrated. I think it was after we didn't get paid. And then I was like, okay, well, I need to have other things then. And that's when I really started looking. But I think what made me kind of like, I think the slow process of me maybe realizing I didn't want to be an MLM was, well, first of all, my enroller just being honest with me always to the best of his ability. I mean, like I said, when things happened, like when I found out that person like was being moved from my team, like he found out and was in tears calling me, telling me like, like, I don't know what to tell you, and like just genuinely cared. But I remember questioning him, and this is where I started to like think more about not being an MLM. I asked him, and like I said, this guy's success. He started an MLM. He's my enroller forever, but he had started to have other businesses and investments. He owned a lot of things. And I remember asking him, because we joined this company with skincare and stuff. And I was like, so let's be honest. After everything that we've been through and the success that you have and that you could have in any company you went to, if you had to choose, are you really telling me you would choose this company to be a part of? And he's like, no, Erin, I'm not telling you that. He's like, because I feel like if I were to, I wouldn't even do network marketing. And he was like, yeah, because he just had so many other things and whatever. So I truly believe that he stuck it out. And I know he has, because we had tearful conversations about this, where he's always been a top income earner. Everybody loves him everywhere he goes kind of person. And there was a lot of us that worked with him for so long. And I think he stayed in network marketing so long. I'm going to cry because he felt obligated for us, Yeah. Oh, I am crying. Sorry.
Don't apologize. This is your story. This is important.
Yeah. So then that was just kind of when it was like kind of eye-opening, where it's like, okay, he stuck around this long because he felt this obligation for some of us that followed him so long to like help us. And then I'm like, well, what am I sticking around for? Do I want to be like in 15 years, people on my team no further ahead and have this same conversation, And so that was when it kind of started to be like, all right, maybe, explore other routes. Maybe this is the end of the road, which is scary as shit, by the way, because it was 15 years of my life. I dropped out of college to do this, 15 years, had fun. It was like a whole, like your identity, right? And this is all happening with like 2020. I'm locked inside. I'm a new mom. I have a new mom. Yeah. And all this is happening.
Of course, it's all going to happen now, right?
Right. It's like perfect timing, but it is what it is. And then, and since then, I feel like everybody that went to that other company, a lot of them have just gone off into like other companies. So I still have some friends that I'd known through this 15-year journey that are still in an MLM. But what I do like about what I see from them is that they're not hardcore like they were before. They're living their lives still, where we didn't do that before. I have some that are like living out of an RV, like they're seeing the country, right? Like they're still in the business and they might show someone here or there, but they're like, it's just hobby, for them. It's just something extra. They like the products, so they want to take them. They like really do like them and want to take them. They're probably maybe making $100, $200 a month, but they don't care is the point. Like they have a few customers and they like the right. So it's like, they're still in it, but they're not really like building.
Yeah. It'd be nice if like, there could be this ability to do something like that without it, having the pressure to post, and show, what you're doing and how like, not having to recruit, getting rid of recruitment, then just sell the products. Then that would be wonderful. Just have it as an aside, you know.
Yeah.
These are good people. You have deep relationships with these people.
Yeah. And I think with what you just said was why I struggled so long with anti-MLM content was because I do know so many people that do that. They don't recruit.
Yeah.
They just do it. So that's why it has, you know, you watch this anti-MLM content and I'm like, but that's not the case. Like I know lots of people, I could probably name 20 off the top of my head that make $500 a month. They never recruited one person, they're just like a product and have referred it, you know, and that's what kept me kind of like, you know, people do that. And then also too, like what you just said with posting, because I know obviously, you know, from watching your story, you're with rank makers and that pressure to make all that content. And it was just different because I feel like if you scroll back through my social media the past 15 years, like most people wouldn't know. Like I never used social media to build ever. So that's another thing that was hard for me, right? Because like sometimes you reject information you don't understand. So I'd see people in anti-MLM talking about like wasting your time, you know, making all this stuff. But so it was hard for me. I see that that's true and that people do that. But at first it didn't hit home because I was like, well, I never posted join my team or do this or, you know, those long vulnerable posts of like, here, I never did, not one time. Like I posted obviously like when I was on trips, we had that you should be here sign. So I would post a vacation picture anyway, but I never posted a post that was like enticing anyone or asking them to like be a part of what I was doing. It was more just like, this is it. But I know that I see it obviously in my Facebook. I know that that's the majority of people, but I'm saying, I think that's one thing too, that kept me coming around to seeing more anti-MLM content because it just wasn't, it didn't hit home with me because I didn't experience that, but I see that most do experience that pressure.
That's powerful. And you know, I want to just validate your experience. Not that you need my validation, but especially for other people watching this, it's so important for us to hear our stories and other people, just like fucking stories sell.
Yeah.
And like, this isn't my experience. Like you're getting it wrong. And that could prevent people from like looking at other information. And the whole point of this is to help people critically think, to see what's right in front of their faces, you know? And so I think that I just want to like, thank you for like, not just talking to me, but for having the courage to keep fucking looking and to keep questioning. Because it can be, I felt similar, you know, coming from like with a coaching, you know, with rank makers. It's like, you're getting it wrong. You know, why isn't there anybody out there talking about this? It's like, I need this. And you're giving this to people that are having this experience that are like yours. So that's important.
It's funny too with rank makers. Cause I remember when it came out, cause we were in the same company. And I was like, he never hit the top rank in our company. What's he doing teaching people in other companies, you know?
That's because it was fucking Numis. That's the one that he got in. But that was after World Ventures.
I don't think they were in World Ventures that long. I don't remember how long.
I found a video of him on YouTube doing World Ventures. He has like a flip chart.
Oh my God.
It's like, there's 10 different ways that you can like earn money with World Ventures. It's like the same 10 different ways that you can earn money with Monat.
Yeah. Right. I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I know it's still just like I said, my husband still like challenges me and for good reason, right? Like, cause I can't look back on my last 15 years and be like, I regret everything, you know, because like I said, I traveled my face off. I met my husband. Like I experienced freedom, you know, like I know what it tastes like and I know what it looks like. And I know what, you know, I know what I want to do with it now when I get it again in a different way. And like, you know, like it's just different. Like, I regret the first 6 years. I don't necessarily regret World Ventures. I think it was shitty. I think I got there's terrible people there, but, and I got a call from Dream Trips too, which is what they're called now. And someone had called me and said, hey, you still have all these active memberships on your team. Why don't you like join again? And I was like, pay me back and maybe I'll think about it. But the person that called me was friends with the new owners. And I just thought, isn't that shitty how it's always like, you get paid here based on your effort and your willingness to work. And it's like, you literally get to call people that already have a team and know what to do to have them join your team. Where a brand new person joining that company today doesn't have can't call me, doesn't have a phone list of people to call like me. I just thought that was like shitty, how sometimes people feel like it's their, oh, this person's great and I'm not. Well, they're given a lot of resources that you're not given, and placements and businesses. And I don't know. I think the biggest, if I do have any regrets, and I think the biggest thing, and I've touched base with a lot of people in my team before, but it's just like the regret would be like if they ever felt that they like, guys, we're gonna cry again. I'm not a crier, but if they ever felt like it was them, like it's me that sucks, I hope they don't feel that way.
Yeah, I know, and that's the really hard part. There's so many good people involved in this, and the structure itself ensures it has to that all these people that are so hardworking and they look up to you, you have these friendships, that we believe there's something wrong with us, that we must be missing something, and it's by design, and it's heartbreaking, and it's like you don't know when you're in it. You're trying to do the best you can, and you did. You did what you were supposed to do, and then even still you questioned. So this is really hard. This is a hard conversation to have, and I just want to keep emphasizing like how fucking courageous you are for doing this.
I'm not used to crying, but I will say being a mom has made me cry more. Maybe it's hormones, who knows?
Maybe you'll be reached out to from an MLM. I hear Modere can balance your fucking hormones.
I saw that too. And then like a postpartum one, happy juice something or other. Oh, I know. It's a lot. But no, I don't regret it. But I mean, there's a lot that you have to look at the positives too, like I did learn a lot of skills and like things. I learned a lot that I still use. So there's those experiences, but and I know, I hope this is the case. I believe it to be true that I don't have it, like there's no bridges burned in my life. Fortunately, I think a lot of people do unfortunately experience that, but fortunately that hasn't been the case here. But I think the biggest thing with that I want people to know when they are in an MLM or like thinking about joining an MLM or are in one and maybe they like it. Like I said, there's so many people I know that really are just making a couple $100 a month and they're not recruiting. They've never posted on social media and they'll never, there's a lot of people like that. And I don't hate that. Like good for you if that's what you're doing, that's what you like. But I think the biggest thing is like just not letting it overcome and become your identity and who you are, right? Because we can control who we are and how we act as human beings, how we treat other people, what we can control all of those things. But when you go all in, I don't think anyone should ever go all in on an MLM because you're not controlling a lot of what happens. And then when it fails, if that's your identity, then it's the business fails. Well, then I failed, right? So like my company goes under, well, I did something wrong, because that's your identity. It's like embarrassing that your company went bankrupt. It was like, I didn't fucking do anything wrong. Like I was like, here, I did nothing wrong. But like, I felt like, oh my gosh, I can't look at people because my company went bankrupt or like something, like it's me. So I think that's the biggest thing is to just like, it can't be your identity. It's not your identity. It's not, and it's just knowing that and like not letting that totally consume your life where people are telling you, I missed a lot of like weddings and holidays and that kind of stuff. And I think those are things people will regret later, if not now. And it's just, I think if you just, and I was thinking about this earlier actually today, like I started so young, so I didn't really know a lot about like, what are my values in life? Like I was 20 when I started, so I didn't really think about like that kind of stuff. But I think if someone were starting an MLM and like, I would think you need to like really define who you are as a person and what you value and what's important to you. And then if you do join an MLM, not to forget those things, because if you're ever challenged on that, right? And it's like, hey, you have to come to this or this, that you stand strong in that and that value of yours. And I don't think I ever defined that early in life. I feel like my values were defined through network marketing, and people were telling me what to value and what to do. And I just adopted that as my own belief. It wasn't really a belief of my own. It was just, I was young and growing up in network marketing. So I just kind of adopted what people told me to believe and what was important. And I still have to, I feel like I still probably have to work through that. There are a lot of times where I'm like, I don't know what I believe about this because I don't know. I was told to believe this for so long and given evidence as to why that was true for so long. So I don't know.
From 20 to like, so 15 years, like, so 35, 20 to 35.
Yeah. So I started in 2006, and then 2021 was when I was officially just done.
You were done.
So that's
shit. It's a lot. It's just really important because you're the way you're speaking, your experiences, it's going to be hitting a lot of people.
I hope so.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I'll 100%, 1,000% guarantee it. If there was somebody out there right now that is similar, like to where, they like the products, they are just earning a bit of money, but they want to go to an event because they love the energy. They're starting to feel that like slipping of that identity. Do you have any, what would you say to them? Do you have any like tips? I know you're already like stand strong, be what they clearly define who you are.
Yeah.
But could you maybe like expand on that for the person that is looking and you're like, you know what, I like my products, but for some reason I'm watching this video right now. This woman, the way she's talking, it's like hitting me.
So like if they're asked to go to an event.
Yeah. Or just start wanting to go all in where they're like shifting now. It's like it happens in subtle ways.
That there's no rush. It doesn't have to be all like, I mean, we're told all the time in MLM, right? Like you got to, take advantage when the wave comes, right? You got to be paddling when the wave comes. But in my experience, the wave comes every 3 to 4 months, like there's always a new wave they'll create of some sort. And, they tell you when you're recruiting, right, that you have to create curiosity and urgency in doing what you're doing, and to realize like that's what's happening to you. They're creating urgency for you to come. And if you want to go to an event, then go to an event, but you don't have to put your life on pause to go. There will be more. I guarantee you, if they're like, you have to go to this event right now, it's going to be life-changing. That same life-changing event's going to happen in 4 months. So like, you don't have to go to this again right now. So don't miss something that you're going to regret because you feel like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, because it's not a once in a lifetime opportunity. If that's true, then I'm lucky because I've gone to like 20 once in a lifetime opportunity events, I'm full of luck. But I would say, to kind of what I was saying before, joining ML and defining your values, I would say before you go to an event, like write down questions that you have and what you believe and what you think would help your business grow. Because when you go to that event, like have it written down before you go so that you can see, this is my mindset before I came to this event. And how am I feeling now that I've been shown this information around this energy, so that you can make a logical conclusion as to like, did I learn something, because I do like events with like energy, because I do like personal development. I do believe that there's something to a group of people and like learning things. I know some people really don't like Tony Robbins, but I've gone to an event and I did love it, and I'm not in a Tony Robbins cult because I went there and I haven't done anything with Tony Robbins since, and that was 5 years ago. But like, I did have a good experience there and I learned something. So I don't know if he's a good example or not to use in that scenario, but I gained from that event.
It is a good example because it's true for you, and you had a good experience. And it's important to not like gatekeep conversations because it might not be popular with what the narrative currently is. Okay. This is important. This is real life. So I want to just fucking validate that too for you.
Yes, because there is something to that. I mean, maybe a better example too, like I coached basketball for so long, right? So it's like I could go work with a girl one-on-one on her basketball skills, on her shooting skills, on this, and this, but it's more powerful with a team to like play with, right? So I think there is something to like, and you're right. There's something about being around people, right? That helps. But my point is what do you what are you trying to gain from this event? And just knowing that like that's not the only way that you can gain the information. There's lots of other ways. There's people that have built $1 million companies online without ever attending an event, you know, in other spaces, right? Like in other things. So it's like there's I might have lost my train of thought, but that's what I'm saying. Like I would write down like what you're thinking before the event and what you're thinking after, so you have that logical comparison to go back to. And then because I'm willing to bet if people were to be like, here's the things I think I should learn. I know it is because I remember them saying it at training. I remember them saying, take everything you think you're supposed to learn and just throw it out the window. You know, and it's like, okay, like, and you'll throw it out the window because you're in a room with 300 other people that are throwing it out the window. So you're going to feel like I'm supposed to throw it out the window. So I guess that would be my thing with events, is just to like, you know, be logical, know what you're going for. But I think, you know, and to be prepared, I guess I'd also say too, like we know that at each event, they're going to have another event that they want you to attend that they'll try to sign you up for while you're there. So mentally know, like it's an event to sell you more stuff also, like whether it's a higher package or an additional training or whatever it is, there's going to be something. So maybe like be prepared in your mind of how you want to handle those things so that you're not so easily suckered into to the next thing. Because by event 4 or 5, I mean, it's like a drug, you know? And then, I don't know, that's probably the best way to describe it. It is kind of like a drug, but.
This is so helpful. When you also, speaking about going to Tony Robbins, and then I just want to like emphasize that, like, if you're watching this and you've gone to other events or whatever, this is part of that, like that shame and regret. It's like, it can really prevent people from, it's like, you got good from this. This was an okay experience for you, what you pulled, and that's okay. And it's when we leave like high control groups, everybody's experiences are different, but you're exposed to this black and white thinking, and it's got to be right or it's got to be wrong. You leave, then it should be like, shame or regret. And it's like, it's hard to like untangle depending on the person, what, everybody's experiences are different, where it's like, it isn't. A lot of things can be true at the same time.
Right.
But where you're involved in multi-level marketing, it's really, there's no space for that. Yeah. It's like you're in and you love it. You feel good. You really feel part of something. So I just want to thank you so much for speaking so honestly about these things. This is hard. This shit is hard to talk about.
And I love you saying that too, because you did just remind me of like, just like that event and that feel like when you're around people like that, and it's constant, right? If you're around your team, right? Because it's not just like, I feel fortunate because I see a lot of people always post their freaking Zoom meetings that they're doing. And maybe it's because I was done really before 2020. So I never did a big Zoom thing before. But I feel like people are constantly now trying to infiltrate your life anyway. So if it's not even at a training, it's on a Zoom. Everybody has to be on here. Let's all drink our coffee together and talk about what we're going to do and like all this kind of stuff. But I feel like that as a result, I remember thinking, and my mother had to tell me this, and it was humbling because it was true. Like the whole like toxic positivity kind of thing. Like I remember always being told, leave your problems in the car. They'll be there when you get back. But then you have to go to this thing and then this thing and then this thing. And I think over the past 15 years, and it's something that I struggle with my marriage now, because I feel like I don't know how to handle feelings sometimes, because I never like crying. I'm like, don't cry. That's weakness, like, yeah. And so it's hard. Like, I don't know. That's something that I'm having to relearn, because my mom, like even on Facebook posts, like I said, even though I never posted about like my business, they were always like overly positive, like super like this or this, or even if I was going somewhere, like I'm going here, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, people don't like that, Erin. Like, I think people look at that and think like, so what, or screw you. You know what I mean? It's like not like all this stuff. And then I remember anytime somebody gave me any, even if it was not even about business, but like an opinion on anything, it was like, they're just being a negative, whatever, or, blah, 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 blah. And it spilled over into like every aspect of my life, where like I never felt a negative emotion. Like I did, but not for very long, because I'd be like, oh, that's negative. Bye. Like, let's get that out of here, because I have to be positive all the time to grow my business and to be a leader, right? Like, you don't see pessimist, negative, sad leaders, do you? You know, like they're on. And so I felt like I always had to be on all the time. And so I didn't even like know. Like, there were times where like we won't get into a lot of detail, but just for example, like in 2000, like I was attacked by a maintenance worker at my apartment complex. Whole nother story. But my point is, I like didn't even really like all this had happened, and then I'm like getting letters from the district attorney about they've indicted this person, and can you meet with the attorney? Like, what do you like? All this is happening, and not one person asked me how I was ever. Like I don't even know that I told a lot of people though. Like, I felt like it was like, I can't bring, like, they got other things to focus on. You know what I mean? It was just like even something that big, I felt like I told my enroller, right? Like, cause we're close, but like, I didn't really mention it to a lot of people, to the point where people knew, obviously, as it goes, but like, I felt like I'm like trying to handle those emotions. And I remember my enroller calling me one day, like shortly after, and was like, what's up? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I have like defense attorneys knocking on my door, trying to get me to talk to them so they can probably like get me to say something, you know, like, and I'm like, just all this stuff. And I was like, and I don't even know like how to like say anything to anybody, right? And when people would ask how are you feeling, you know, it's always like, oh, I'm okay, could have been worse, you know, like, I'm still here, I'm alive, this is great, you know, wonderful stuff. And I went and talked to a counselor because so many people told me to, but I'm the person that's like, I don't need this. I went for 3 days just to say I talked to someone 3 times, and whatever. I was in my mind, I was like, I have better things to do than talk to this counselor. I have a business to build, you know, and like, it's just such a mind fuck. But like what you were just saying with like all these experience stuff just made me think of like that whole always being on and positive, and like all that stuff. Like, you can't talk about an experience not being positive or like having anything like that. And I just think that like, I mean, maybe it shifted a little bit in today's world of MLM, since people tell you to be more vulnerable on your posts. But in my first beginning, it was not. You don't be vulnerable, you be tough and everything. But so yeah. So I think like that's a big thing. Like, understanding, like when I first heard the word toxic positivity, I was even like, that sounds like bullshit. Like, toxic positivity. Like, and then I was like, oh, it took me a while to click. Like, oh, just being that overly fake positive and like not acknowledging things. And I think that's a big thing. And right. And MLM, I just never talk to anybody about anything. I feel like I should write down right now that I need to set up some counseling sessions. So it's on my mind.
Put that on it. You know, I was 4 months of speaking out. I was shit talking. I'm like, I don't need therapy. Whatever. First time in my life, it fucking took me out. MLM and rank makers took me the fuck out. I had to finally go seek therapy.
Yeah, it's probably super helpful.
It was. And I approached it like, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to fucking do this, I'm going to do this. And so I found a psychologist, a local psychologist, and I emailed them. And I didn't even ask if they had openings. I'm like, do you have experience with cults and MLMs? Like, do you support MLMs? Like, yes, I have. I do have an opening. And I was like, oh God, I'd send an email back. Sorry, I didn't ask. I do have experience with cults and area of practice around trauma and like abuse. And then I don't support MLMs. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so when I went to my first appointment, I knew, I'm like, fuck it. All right. So I just like went in there. And I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? Like, I'll fucking do it. Same approach that, you know, you do in MLM. I'm like, okay, it's going to fucking suck. Ask me the questions, filling this out. What do you feel like? I feel self-loathing. I'm a loser. Like, all of it, like fucking 10 out of 10. I'm like crying. I'm like, let's fucking do it then. You know, it was very helpful. It was very helpful. And I should have done it sooner. And I especially because if anybody feels that shame of that residual shame, it's not the residual fucking paycheck anymore. It's the residual shame of having these feelings of emotions are negative and positive. It's like, who gets to decide that? The MLM gets to decide that. That culture gets to decide that. And it's like, these emotions are coming up for a reason. A lot of times we're in our instincts, you know?
And that's the whole thing we talked about earlier, though, is like a lot of times there's times where I do believe that to be true, right? Like how you think about something determine, you know, that's the thing that sucks is like that is true. I do believe that still, but it's not, but it's so just twisted to be like
it's twisted, and it's done it like they use these elements of psychology and social psychology unethically.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I'm curious on your opinion too, because here's
Sure.
what I'm trying to figure out, right? Because like I know in my experience with my enrollers and uplines, there's some I believe to be genuine good people and some that are just assholes. But I feel like when everybody signs up in an MLM, right? They all sign up, right? Unless they have a friend that starts this company. But I guess I always wonder like where did it stem from, right? Like at some point like Amway started, right? And then like did these people that start with a good idea and then it just grew into a fucking beast of an industry that people took advantage of and manipulated? Because I always believed it to be that when the industry started, like people were just like, cool, cut out the middleman, straight direct to a consumer. That's a good idea. Get paid a little bit of commission. Boom. But then as the industry grew, companies are like, well, we got to compete not on products, on comp plan. We got to show you we can pay you more and blah, 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 blah. Point is, do you believe that even all these people that own MLMs know? Like they believe they're not like, oh, I believe people can get rich here, or they believe this is great for me.
Because it's impossible if looking at their compensation plan, their income disclosure statement, they know exactly what's going on. And they all do the same things too. So, you know, you can bounce from company to company. And I've seen people like that they know, and they'll get in at the ground floor opportunity. They're invited to be a founder. They all do the same thing. They'll use the same kind of music, the same format. Hey, everyone, thanks for coming to our event. Who's here from Australia? Here's our $1 million club. Let's walk. It's all the same. Like you could go from like, there'll be like different words, like different, like Mon neighborhood for Monat, urbanize your home for Arbonne. But the concepts, they're the same throughout. And so I do believe that people that create these companies they know exactly what they're doing. It's something that has taken me almost since I started speaking out to kind of accept, because I can't understand how people could treat people so poorly, because in order for them to still get people in there, they know that people are going to be blaming themselves. They're structuring these mindset trainings for people to self-gaslight and for uplines to reinforce that behavior, thinking there must be something wrong with me. And it's like they fuck with everybody. And that's the only way they're not businesses, they're scams, in my opinion. I'm only saying my opinion for you. If I was on my own, I'm like, they're fucking commercial calls, right?
I love it. Well, I think it's interesting too, and I would be curious. I might have to try and dig up a number, but like, I just feel like you always hear so many people that were like and even people like now I see posting, right? Like this is why you should join our company. But I always see like a common theme where it's like owners of companies were top leaders in another company, where it's like you're sitting here, and and this is the thing that sucks is I've had these questions since the beginning. But for some reason, it's just like whatever. I'm sure there's a reason, but I'm like, if I remember thinking like, if it's so great and being at the top of the comp plan and you're making all this residual income and life's good, why the fuck would you? They talk about how bad it is to be a business owner, all the overhead and the stress and all that shit. So I'm like, so why, if it's so great, why did you go be a traditional business owner instead of being a top income? Wouldn't it be better to be a top income earner in a company than that, based on what you're saying? And then it's like, it's not. And like, I don't know. I just think I see like the more like people that are at the top end that like, I don't know, just like leave for different reasons. And I don't know. I think it's just a self-propelling like monster. These people, you just get sucked in so deep that it's your identity. And so I think some of these people, they just like, they just don't know any better. Some people have been in since they're 20. So like they literally just don't know any better. And they just think that. And I don't know, like I said, how like with my enroller, like sticking around so long for us, and like you don't know how like many people either just are around for that reason or they just feel that, you know. So
They're
that's the thing.
controlled
It's
as
hard
well.
to determine between like who are the shitty people that are at the top
I
and who are
know.
like the decent ones that still feel kind of maybe.
I know, because I know it's so hard. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know. I still struggle with it. I struggled with it with fucking Ray, even though he's like a prophet now and healing people as of fucking yesterday. Like this is
Healing
like,
people?
yes. So he held a healing Zoom call saying that God has told him that he's being obedient, that he will heal people now. So he let out a Zoom link, and everybody that wanted to attend this Zoom link, which there'll be more of that he's doing, because this is how these things go. Abuses
So he's
continue to
gaining
escalate.
traction with this. It's working.
Yeah. And you're a person of faith. So this is another thing that how people's faiths are like manipulated. This is just, I think it's important for people. I found it helpful for me to hear people outside of rank makers, outside of Monat, to kind of like go to bat for me. Like I felt, oh, I'm seen in this regard. And so I want to also add my voice to what people are doing, like using Christianity. I know fuck all. I know the bare minimum, but I do know manipulation when I see it. And I know when people are getting scammed, and I can help point out, and I can add my voice to that too. So the more voices, the better.
Yeah, I think it's really crazy. And I know like it's always in MLM for some reason too. And I remember going to like events and hearing people preach at different events and stuff like that. And I'm just like, it's not very Christian of you to be acting like this. But to speak to your point, like I don't know if sometimes people even like, I don't know if Ray, for example, like believes in God genuinely, or it's a business tool. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like people who did genuinely share what I believe would not be doing that, right? Like I couldn't imagine.
You wouldn't have a picture of white Jesus behind them and this frame sign of gratitude lined up with an image of a lion right underneath his name. Everything he's doing is strategic.
Yeah, it has to be.
So it's just that you can tell, but there's this, when it starts to like give me money, there's something wrong. Any criticism, you're a demon, you're a hater, you're uncoachable, you're negative. Like it goes off the rails quick.
Well, I do think too, and something I experienced as well would be like, how do I word it? Just, I never like lost my faith while in, I think all people, like I've challenged my own faith lots of times. There's times I went astray, but like, there's always something that brings me back, and reading things. And I'm just like, that's it for me, what I believe in. So, but I feel like I lost that a little bit in MLM because I feel like things get so misconstrued, and kind of like a great example is just like what Ray is doing. Like you hear all these things and it's like, well, I must be doing something wrong if God's not blessing my business, or heaven forbid I bring to the attention if someone say that to me, like, well, maybe God's trying to say this isn't my path. Oh my God, don't think about that way, but I was like, maybe he's trying to shut the door and show me another direction, and or not. But I don't know. I have a friend who was in a different company, and I know that happened to her a lot too, where they asked her if she was praying for the right people to join her team, and she's like, well, yeah, I pray God to like bless anything that I do, whether it's this or something else, like just in general. And they're like, no, you have to be very specific about this. And then she's like, oh, okay. And then like, whatever. And they're like, we'll tell you exactly how to pray to get the right people. Like it's a fucking spell. Like you're not saying the spell right to like cast it. I'm like, I don't think it works that way. And yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, that does get kind of really used a lot. And I don't. And like I said, it's always like, like true Christians don't do that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like if he really did believe that, like my husband is a great example, very strong Christian. He has a Christian athletic brand. He's written like a mini book about it, right? So he has a business, right, that has a Christian athletic brand logo, but like you would never see him saying, come to me, I'll heal you. Like, if anything, it's like, if anything, the Bible warns about people like, right? anything, there's bold warnings in there about him. So if any of these people are listening to him, it's like, go home and read your Bible and you'll know that this is where they're talking about in the Bible, is not to listen to Ray. But like Ryan would never, right? Like him being a Christian would be like, let me be your friend. Let me listen to you. Let me be there for you. How can I help support what you're going through? Like, what do you need? How can I pray? Right? He would never be like, I'm the one to help you, you know, here I am. I'm the answer to your prayers. I don't know. Little tangent, but I feel like if anything, MLM hindered my faith a little bit, not strengthened it.
Yeah.
So
because it's like that control, it's like controlling your faith, and which is something that shouldn't be controlled by a multi-level marketing company. It's like it's taking it away, like telling you how to pray, how to do it exactly. It's like manifestation stuff. That's
like
it's
exact
weird
verbiage. Like
yeah,
you
so
say, dear
yeah.
God, please send. I know it's crazy. So it sucks that happens, but and it's crazy why Christianity, like you don't see, I don't know, obviously in America that's probably the most common religion, you know, but I'm like, what? You don't really see anyone else using other, I mean, maybe they do, but other religions to like manipulate anybody.
Mormon.
That?
Mormons.
Oh,
Mormons.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yep, that's a good example, actually. Yep, Never mind.
Yeah, I know it was kind of like, it's like, shit, I forgot about that. Right?
Yeah, that's it. That's one. I know. Yeah. It is crazy. And I still question myself sometimes after like 15 years of like, am I thinking for myself? Or like, or I will say this, another thing of a recovering MLM person is questioning. I question a lot. I never questioned my decisions before. I was always like super bold, confident in everything I did. And now I feel like I second guess everything. You know what I mean? Like I made these shitty decisions prior and I didn't know till 15 years later. Yes. So am I making another poor decision? You know, it kind of like stifles your confidence a little bit, I guess. So
yes,
I guess that's what I would tell a new person too. Like not to lose your confidence in your decisions, like trust your own decision making and make your own decisions. So in the future, you don't have those regrets. So
yeah,
this is like a therapy session. Thanks. This is great.
You know, it's one of the things I've learned from connecting with other people in different multi-level marketing companies and other cult survivors is that it's like just talking, like support groups where there's no structure. It's like you just are hanging out and talking. It is so helpful.
Yeah.
So we help each other, and this content, when it's out there,
it's like it
will help people. It is each piece of content, each comment. If you're watching this and you even like leave a comment, comments are something that I know a lot of us go to. It's safe for like to read and see like what are other people saying. So you speaking out right now, it is having, you're impacting people. That word. And I want to say too, like just because you had this was kind of like before the internet, like before you're doing all this stuff, the concepts are the same though. And it's almost like it's a really good kind of like, this is the foundation. You're going to be hitting a lot of people, like it's going to be landing with a lot of people who aren't hearing their stories. You know, they need to hear it like from you, where it's like, no, I went to Tony Robbins. I really liked it. I was in it for 15 years. I got in when I was young. Like it's all important. And I just want to like say to you, there's not a wrong way. There's no wrong feelings here. It's okay if you're crying. It's like this shit is coming out, and it comes out like art. Who the hell knows what's going to come out? So
yeah. Sorry if you can hear my 3-year-old in the background. Did you hear him?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
That's okay.
And it's 10 p.m. so he should be in bed.
All right.
We started preschool, so we do naps after school now, and then it pushes bedtime back. But so sorry.
No, you don't. Please, there's no need to apologize. I want to thank you so much for being on and for being so honest. This is it gives courage to people when you're speaking out so openly about like, I felt guilt, I did this, and I even brought people to this mastermind thing. Like even though I knew it probably wasn't, but you still believe you're doing the right thing, but you have these like twinges of guilt. putting language to this emboldens people to admit, like, and to acknowledge what they're feeling is okay, that they're not pushing it down when they hear someone of you, especially on your stature, like the levels that you achieved. And do you have anything that you would like to say? You get the last word.
Gosh, I have, yeah, I always have lots to say, but
Good.
I well, it's just, I think a lot of people, like, when they join, it's that quest for freedom, and there's no way to, like, know what that feels like, or you know what I mean? So I feel like people are searching for something that they don't know what they want. And even if they get it, it doesn't come in the form that you expect it to, right? Like, I had freedom for a little bit, and things like that. And one of my best friends, and who was my enroller, I might cry, but he had passed away this year. And
I'm so sorry.
no, that's okay. I got this. But one of the last conversations we had was just talking about, like, I mean, he's a great person and he had lots of other businesses and impacted a lot of people. His celebration of life was live streamed and there was like 8,000 people that watched it. He touched a lot of people. But I remember just talking about, like, business and stuff. And one of the things, it just echoed in my head because I feel like I'd seen a lot of opportunities since then. People reached out to me, but, like, I remember him saying, like, with all that he was doing, he's like, man, ever since I stopped building, I've never felt more free in my life. And he was the top, like, people were trying to be him. And, he had freedom in the sense of money and time, but it wasn't till he was, like, doing something that, like, I don't think MLM truly makes people happy is what I'm trying to say. It's like, I don't think it's something that it can offer you a lot, right? You can make that time and money, but that title isn't going to, like, give you that freedom to be who you are and what you want. And so, sorry. So that like conversation that we had, it just stuck with me. And, like, I think about it every time people have, like, shown me other things that have looked enticing, right? Because I've seen some stuff that it's like, you don't have to recruit or whatever. That's a whole nother story. But I've just always in the back of my head, like, they say, find someone who has what you want, do what they do. Where I'm like, he did, and he told me that wasn't it. So I'm not doing it, And so he, sorry, but just knowing that's how he felt, and I felt that way too. So I'm not crazy, and that he had felt that way, and, like, yeah, and it's like that. Just hearing him say that, I guess, was just validation I needed, kind of, to know, like, that's okay. Why am I doing this? My eyes are leaking. So yeah, so that's what I would say. I would say if you're looking into an MLM, I think, you're looking to fill something, whether it be, friends, community, fill your loneliness or desire for community or desire for money or desire, whatever it is that you're looking for. I think that there's many, 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 many healthier ways to get what it is that you're looking for without having to without having to pay money to join a business to make those things happen. Like, there's lots of things that you can do to build. So maybe if you are looking to join an MLM, think about what it is that you're trying to fill, why you want to join it, and then realize there's way healthier alternatives to fill that void. Would be what I get. So that later you're not like, damn it, I didn't really have the freedom I thought I had. That's what I would say.